Tracking the tropics as the likelihood of a hurricane in the Caribbean is increasing, plus a big storm system by the end of the month. Welcome in, folks. Great to see you. Happy Monday. Happy October 20th, officially on the final third of the month, and only 2 months to go left in 2025. It was a quick year, I fear, for many of us. At least for me, it felt like a quick one, and already out towards the end of hurricane season. But it doesn't mean that we're done with hurricane season, as I am tracking the likelihood of one last hurrah here over the next week or two, right down into the Caribbean. And this could form really as soon as tomorrow, or even sooner than that would not surprise me. But a lot to figure out on where this potential system is going. Plus, we're going to break down the likelihood of a potential big-time storm system over the lower 48 closer to Halloween. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. It's free for you. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. All it does is keep you in the loop on the latest changing weather that we have, and my analysis of all the data that I have at my fingertips. And obviously that's good news for you. All right, let's go and dive on into things and start talking about what's on the way. Taking a look at the latest run from our European computer model, one of our more reliable models usually, now not all the time, but usually, showing that potential down into the Caribbean. Notice the system starts to spin up, does it slowly over the next 5 to 7 days, and then explodes in intensity and runs right up into Cuba as a major hurricane. It's at least what this model is showing. Now, is that exactly how this is going to play out? Honestly, it's up in the air as one of the possibilities right now. However, it's not necessarily the most likely scenario, and definitely not set in stone, as we've got a lot of different possible outcomes with this storm that we'll be taking a look at throughout the video. But first, before we do all that, let's just look at the thing. What does it look like? Does it look like it even wants to form? Yeah, it does. This is a pretty healthy looking wave. It already has that very clear cyclonic look in the clouds. You can see the striations here indicating that this is already spinning. The question still is it spinning in the lowest levels of the atmosphere? That's what we need for it to become a named storm. It's definitely spinning in the mid and upper levels right now, but does it have a fully closed low-level center? Well, we'll take a look at data here in a second and try to answer that for ourselves, but you can see plenty of convection firing around this thing. Yeah, it's a very healthy looking wave, folks. I'd be shocked if this does not get a name by the end of this week. Honestly, it could do it sooner than that. Just looking at it right now, it looks very well organized for what the National Hurricane Center is still calling a tropical wave. Now, I will pull up the water vapor loop, and we'll take a look at if there's any dry air nearby. And there is a little bit of dry air here to the west of the system, but I think it's doing a very good job of holding its own and kind of closing off a bit of a marsupial pouch, as we call it, just meaning it's got its own very warm, tropical, and moist core that is kind of keeping some of that drier air out from it right now. Now, you put all that together, the National Hurricane Center is obviously watching this. They've got an 80% chance of it developing into a named storm this week, a 50-50 shot. It does it over the next 48 hours, and that would happen anywhere here in the red circle, anywhere from south of Puerto Rico to all the way south of Jamaica and Cuba, just offshore from Nicaragua, over the next 7 days. That is the potential area to watch. All right, so that's what it looks like now. Let's dive in even deeper into the structure of this thing, though, and kind of give you the latest data that we have on that, and then we'll take a look at some forecast models on where it may end up and how strong it could get. Well, luckily, this area is officially designated as an invest, so we've got more data on it, and we can kind of zoom in on it on some of our data. I already looped it for you on satellite, so we don't need to do that. We already know what that looks like. But let's take a look at some of the other things out here and kind of decipher what I think we've got going on. Now, do we have any microwave imagery on this one? Doesn't look like it right now. We'll see if we have any AMSU data, which would tell us if it's warm core. It doesn't look like we have any of that as well, so it's still running low on some of those satellites right now, waiting for them to come back around the globe and give us the latest. How about lightning? Do we have any lightning? Yeah, well, it looks like we do have some lightning involved in this one, so that could be an indication that we have some stronger storm activity getting going. Now, what you want to see, or I guess what we really don't want to see if you're a tropical system and you want to develop, you want to get that lightning close as possible to where the current center is. And right now, it's kind of spread out across the storm. What about the wind? Is this having a fully cyclonic look to it? Well, we'll see if we have any scatterometer data, and it looks like we just missed it. I'm telling you, this is our luck, right? This satellite got this part of the storm and out on the other side of it, but did not get all the stuff in between. So that's unfortunate, but hopefully aircraft reconnaissance will go on in here eventually. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's one of the reasons they haven't named this yet is we don't have fully enough data to confirm that it is a fully named storm. Hopefully we can get that this afternoon, and maybe they will name it and give it the next name on the list. What about dry air? Is there dry air around it? Well, like I said, there's a little bit out in front of it. There was a ton back into the MDR, and it's now out of that region, and that didn't really look to disorganize it all that much. So I'm skeptical any of this dry air out in front of it will do a whole lot today to help us keep this from developing. How about the wind shear? I think that's going to be one of the more important things to look at here is the wind shear on the map. And remember, the red colors or the red contours is where we have unfavorable wind shear for development. The yellow being, kind of in between, and then the green being more favorable. There is a pocket of some stronger wind shear right now. We've got some shear coming in out of the west. So we've got these winds blowing over the system like that. And you can see that is helping to keep it a little bit lopsided. Remember, where we think the center is a little bit to the left-hand side of where this big band of convection is. So I think the National Hurricane Center right now is hoping that keeps this at bay for a while. But here's the problem, though. We may have the wind shear, but this is something that we need to watch very closely is and that's the fact that we just have explosive levels of fuel in the Caribbean right now. Sea surface temperatures up near 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. That's absolute jacuzzi water for a tropical system. And it's not only that, folks, it's the fact that this goes very deep, this warm water. I mean, just to the north of the system, this water goes 150 meters down at that favorable level for development. And if you go further out west into the Caribbean, it only gets deeper from there. So if you put all that together, we have what we call the MPI, or max potential intensity, here for a system. And if we look at what sort of pressure values this sort of water could produce if there was no wind shear or dry air to work with, I mean, you could easily get a system down near 900 millibars would be the max intensity that this water could support. Now, is that my forecast? No, I don't think we're going to get that. Like I said, there was some wind shear and dry air nearby, but the point being the water is a big key to the forecast here, and it's one that suggests that this could really explode should the rest of the elements in the atmosphere let it. All right, that's what the system looks like now. Let's dive into model data and time out where I think this is going to go, or at least try to time out the possibilities on where this could go. You'll see very quickly here in the model data that we've kind of got two camps left on what could happen with this system. And unfortunately, both of those camps involve it developing into a named storm. So I think no matter what, we're at a point, if you're in the Caribbean, you've got to watch this one super closely. And even in the United States, this isn't a very large threat to us right now. However, it is something that we still need to watch in the lower 48 for potentially on down the road, some mischief could happen. Not saying it will, but remember, we're still in that phase that's far enough out to watch. Here's the American model, and the American model has been, I'll give it this much, it has been very consistent with this system, and it may be onto something. The GFS, the main difference between it and the other models is it develops it quite quickly, and I showed this thing to you on satellite. It's got that look already, so I would not be surprised if the GFS is right and we get a named storm out of this really sometime today or tomorrow. That's what the GFS does, and then starts to strengthen it, and we've got a landfalling hurricane. You can see about 977 millibars there by overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Today's Monday afternoon, folks, so this is not far at all. If you're in Hispaniola, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, this would be a big-time storm for you. A hurricane coming right up on your southern shoreline by the middle of this week. That's what the GFS shows. Then kind of gets beaten apart by the mountains there, but would cause a big flooding threat there, some storm surge and high winds, and then kind of stalls out a little bit near the Bahamas, and then just meanders there for really a while, all the way out to 10 days, and eventually gets scooped up and out of here into the open Atlantic. That's a GFS. That's one camp of the models. Let me show you the European now and what it shows, which is kind of a completely different solution. The European takes much longer to develop this over the next couple of days. It does try to get it into a named storm. You can see here by overnight tomorrow into Wednesday, we've got, I would call that a close at a low-level center. We've got around 1,005 to 1,010 millibars. So a weak tropical system, but you can see how a lot of that shear that I showed you is still displacing some of the convection there to the east of that center of circulation, thanks to those westerly winds. Then eventually, that just keeps the system at bay. That and dry air kind of keep it boring, and because it's a weaker system, it doesn't really want to move as far north as the GFS does. And when a system gets strong, it starts to pull north, generally speaking, here in the northern hemisphere. And because it doesn't get strong, because of some of that shear that the European thinks might be a bigger deal than the GFS does, it just meanders south of Jamaica, south of Hispaniola, would still bring a flooding threat to the southern shorelines of these countries, as a lot of that tropical moisture is still rotating around it. So that could be a big deal, even on a look like this with the European. Just keeps on hanging swinging around and then eventually sneaks its way into the Western Caribbean. This is by next Monday into Tuesday. So a week from now, the GFS is basically done with this storm. A week from now, the Europeans just getting it going, strengthening it into a strong hurricane near Central America, then pulls it north, and it has a major hurricane striking Cuba by 10 plus days from now. So think about the difference of that. We've got one model that shows the tropical system making landfall in 3 days, another that shows it happening in like 11 days. I mean, that is insane disagreement between the operational model runs here for this time frame, and then pulls it up into the Bahamas also as a major hurricane, and eventually out to sea, but not far from the United States. So we've got some crazy things that are going on. Let's take a look at some of the other models and see if they're kind of backing up one of these camps. And then we'll take a look at the ensembles, which are one of my favorite things to look at in these sorts of situations. Here's the Euro AI model. So I just showed you the European. This is its long lost cousin, but uses AI components instead of the typical deterministic model components that the other model uses. What does it show? Well, this is a vorticity map. So the brighter the colors get, the more spin there is. And this one agrees more with the GFS, actually. It develops this much quicker. Because of that, it starts to pull it north here and hits Hispaniola, although weakens it actually on approach thanks to some of that wind shear taking hold of it, and then just kind of kills it off over Hispaniola and nothing more of it. That would still bring a major flooding concern, though, for you folks, but would not maybe be as strong of a storm as what the Euro deterministic model run showed. What about the Canadian model? What does it show? Well, it, like the other models, slowly develops this and over the next couple of days. Then, much more like the European, gets it much further into the Caribbean and then tries to develop it more closer to that 7 to 10 day range compared to the GFS, which was the next 2 or 3 days, much like the Euro AI also showed, and then kind of pulls us up north, also towards Cuba around 10 days from now, but isn't as strong as the deterministic European model showed. Show you another model. Here's the Icon model, and kind of similar or almost an in-between. It wants to start like the GFS. It starts to pull north over the coming days, then stalls out a little bit due to a breakdown of steering currents and the fact that it's still not that strong, then finally finds some new steering currents, keeps pushing west, and starts to strengthen. And this is as far out as it goes, is a week from today, just south of Jamaica as a hurricane. So what can we summarize here? Well, what we can summarize is basically every model has a different solution, but you start to see there's kind of two camps developing. There's one that gets this going stronger, much quicker, and immediately pulls us up in Hispaniola. Another camp that tries to do that, stalls out. It just meanders for a couple of days in this vicinity, then finds a western route, and then pulls north towards Cuba, the Bahamas, and maybe even closer to Florida. Now, what do the ensembles say? It's great that we've got the deterministic models, but the ensembles are really a better tool to use. Let's look at them and try to see if they can finally answer what may happen with this. Here are the European ensemble members, and you can even see that there's two camps on the ensemble members. Some of them pulled this north into Hispaniola, but most of the European, at least, ensembles just continue that western track like its deterministic model run shows, and then just blows this thing up into the Western Caribbean as a major hurricane as environmental conditions become even more favorable. I showed you that very deep warm water. By 7 to 10 days out, the model is suggesting wind shear will die down even more, and you see a lot of pink colors beginning to develop here, meaning that this would be a very strong storm. Some members get this near 920 millibars, so really start to become a more favorable environment, and at that point, they really start to pull north. If that's the case, we're still going to be talking about this system in November. It wouldn't even form into a major hurricane probably till about Halloween, and then, like I said, could potentially impact places like Cuba with a scenario like that. GFS ensembles, all over the place, but you can see a lot of them, pull this up in Hispaniola. Some of them do more of the European thing, but just an insane amount of uncertainty. So this is one of those forecasts that I would say if I'm living in Hispaniola, this is a bit of a nightmare of a forecast. You've got one option, which is maybe not catastrophic, but a big time hurricane right on your doorstep Thursday into Friday or Wednesday into Thursday even. And then another option is really just some rain on your southern coastline. So the possibilities here are kind of all over the place. But let's look at the AI data. This is one that has done very well so far this season, and I'll even kind of loop it ahead into time and let's show you what happened. So this is by, and I'll kind of verbalize the time. This is Wednesday afternoon on the AI model. So this is 2 days from now. All of them clustered pretty well. The storm somewhere in here, a lot of them becoming stronger. And the ones that do become stronger start to pull this north towards Hispaniola. And as early as this would be Thursday afternoon into overnight Thursday and into Friday morning, you've got a lot of them, about half of them, really honestly, right about 50%, begin to slam this right up into Hispaniola, would bring major flooding, would bring storm surge, would bring strong gusty winds. The other half do that stalling thing the European does, and then you keep going ahead into time, and you see another camp breaks out where some of them follow the European path and then continue westbound, and eventually out into time start to pull north near Cuba, closer to 10 to 15 days from now. So, I mean, the forecast really is all over the place with this one, folks, and I hate to be the one that tells you I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't, and no other meteorologist knows right now. It just depends, when does this thing form? I'll add this. I think it looks pretty good on satellite right now, so I would not be shocked if this is one that kind of just starts pulling north maybe a little bit sooner. There's that thought process, but there's the other thought process that if that dry air and wind shear do its job like it should and can overcome those warm sea surface temperatures, then maybe the beta effect takes over, which would allow this to just keep scooting west a little bit longer. And then this is a very much real possibility that we get something more like the European. So if I had to put percentages on it right now, I'd say I'm actually leaning a little bit closer to the GFS. Not by much, though. I'd give that about a 60% chance of happening. Then I'd give the European option maybe more of a 40% chance of happening. So that's still pretty 50-50. And again, I hate to tell you I don't know, but nobody really does. Maybe I lean slightly, and I do mean slightly, towards the GFS camp right now. And you can see a lot of these AI members do as well, but still a good chunk of them going with the European. All right, that's what we know with the tropics right now. Let's bring things on back home, where I do think there's the potential for a big storm system around the end of the month. And that could even impact the track of this system. And do they even try to combine? Well, let's talk about it. Well, the big storyline currently is we've had this big shot of cold air working into the eastern United States. You can see this is the temperature change over the past 24 hours. We had warmer air in the east yesterday, then all of that blue beginning to work in, and that's why we had so much wind and a lot of wind reports. It's that pressure gradient that begins to form due to the density differences from these temperatures, and it was quite a windy day. We even had a 41-mile-an-hour gust here in Charlotte, and we were well away from the center of the storm, so it kind of explains why that went down the way it did. What's to come, though? And that's, I think, the big question. You can see we've got this big blue blob working in. We've got another shot of cold air kind of working in, and that's going to keep the winds gusty over the next day or two, especially into the Great Lakes and Northeast. That kind of stays for a while. It keeps a really nice October-y week here into the eastern U.S. There may be a slight warm-up, but this is the bigger story. It's this big blob of blue showing up on really all of our ensembles from every model right around Halloween, probably a little bit before Halloween, but right in that time frame. So what exactly does that mean for the forecast? Well, it means something's going to happen. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, it could be a couple of things. It could be a big storm system. It could just be a big shot of cold air. It could be snow for somebody. It could be severe weather for others. I mean, really all cards on the table still with this one. And obviously it's 10 days away, so you would expect that. The operational model is also showing you, though, this is our vorticity map. Remember, it's kind of our energy map that shows where storms are likely to get going. And we've got that other shot of cold air I just told you about coming into the Great Lakes. That will produce a bit of a storm system. But it's this one that comes in later on. You can even see another little storm system here, but by Halloween time, you can see this big bowling ball of energy that begins to work on in, and I mean, this is just a monster of upper level piece of energy. And then here's that hurricane on the European. This is why I said the United States needs to keep this one on their map as well. Not a big deal, but if a setup like this were to happen, like a lot of the models show right now, then this hurricane down here, or what I presume would be a hurricane, should the European outlook happen that I showed you earlier in the tropics, could it interact with this big trough and maybe try to get sucked back into the United States? It's a possibility. It's a low end right now. Maybe got only like 10-20% chance of happening, but it's high enough that, we'll talk about it and we'll keep it in mind here as we continue going over the model data. All right, let me show you what this could actually mean in terms of weather and what kind of impacts a storm like this system could potentially bring. Here's a European operational model, and again, kind of just showing what's happening. We've got some leftover storminess and wind today in the Northeast from that system that's bringing in the colder air. Then here comes the next system, not big on rain with the next one, but bringing another shot of chilly air, bringing gusty winds again to the Great Lakes and Northeast, and could even bring some more rain up into New England, even through your Tuesday and Wednesday there. Meanwhile, most everyone else in the country staying dry. After that, we are looking at maybe another little storm system trying to get going by this weekend. Maybe this produces some severe weather into the plains. Would not surprise me. Most models struggle to get it all the way to the east, though, as high pressure continues to lock into place thanks to some upper level convergence, bringing that sinking motion into the east by the end of this week. Should keep that other low pressure away. Although, I will add, It's been quite dry for a lot of us here in the east. I know we got rain yesterday for some of us, others not so much here in the Carolinas. I know a little bit of rain yesterday, but not enough to really cure the drought problems that we're in. So watch for wildfire risk rising this week for a big section of the mid-Atlantic and southeast. Would not surprise me at all. Keep that in mind. Don't burn anything if you don't have to. Then comes the big storm, and here's one right around Halloween showing up. You can see low pressure developing, gets a lot of rain going, and then another bigger lower pressure gets going, and this would be a pretty big deal. Should it happen like this, this would bring the likelihood of maybe some severe weather. It would bring a big shot of cold air right through the heart of the country. It would bring gusty winds, maybe some snow. You see a little bit of pink here and there. Wouldn't shock me as well. Maybe we get some snow, especially in the higher elevations of the east right around Halloween with a setup like this. But remember, things still all over the place in terms of exactly what this will look like. I will tell you, the signal is there for cooler temperatures. You can see this blue taking over the east over the next couple of days, stays locked in into the middle of the week, then maybe a brief warm up by the start of next week, but it may not last long. As you can see, blue tries to work in again right around Halloween. So could be a pretty good festive Halloween this year. Maybe we get a nice shot of that cool air. Maybe it's breezy. Maybe we've got even some snow in some higher elevation areas of the east. Would not shock me, but it will definitely keep you up to date on that. So just to summarize everything from today's video, a ton of uncertainty in the tropics. We've got two possibilities. Obviously, we talked about what those possibilities are. Also, we've got that potential of a big end of the month storm, but a lot of uncertainty on exactly what that will look like at this moment in time. All right, folks, I know we've got a lot of uncertainty out there weather-wise, but either way, hopefully we all have a wonderful day. Enjoy the week out there, especially those of you that are having nicer weather, and try to get outside and enjoy it. Y'all have a great one. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.